Welcome to another episode of Not Your Average Lives. And today I have a super special guest. This is my oldest daughter, Nikki Johnson.
Hello.
She was Nikki Hill for a long time, so it was hard to get used to the Johnson, but that's okay. Johnson Hill, they're just easy names, right? So it's really crazy. I am here visiting her and her family, and I thought, I want to interview her for my podcast because she is now 38. I actually have a child or two children who are at midlife. Because if you think about it, I think like 35, that's like 70 that's half of 70. So to me, that's midlife, right?
Because let's not rush things.
So, and I thought my audience would just get to know me better if they knew my daughter. She might share some stories. I'm okay. I can be vulnerable here. What mistakes did I make? How did I screw you up? We could talk about that if we want. But one of the reasons why I want to have her on, and I'll turn it over to her in a second and let her introduce herself. But one of the reasons I wanted to have her on is because she is the reason I am not your average grandma. She is the reason I started my own business. She has been very influential to me in my late in life transformation into a new career. And she's amazing. And so I wanted her to get on here and share her tips. She also does this. She grew a multi six-figure network marketing company, being a mom of two small children, broke as a joke back in the day, and then has had two more. So she's done all this, then created her own new company, and all the while having more babies. And I only had two, so she has double what I have. And having been here for a few days, and I visit her frequently. She lives about a 7-hour drive from me, but it is like a crazy household.
It's loud.
Yes, she manages it very well. And I have the most amazing grandchildren, of course. So I want to share Nikki with the world. I also want to talk about what she does today, but I want to talk a lot about how you got to where you are.
Okay.
So Nikki, darling child of mine. She's my oldest, by the way. Yeah. Did I say that? Sorry. I have another daughter, but I love them equally. So Nikki, hello.
Hello.
We're sitting at her desk.
Yes, it's weird.
Oh, and the baby's sleeping. Yeah. So we have only a short
Two are in school. One is with dad and one is asleep.
Yeah. So. Yes. And she's used to talking on webinars and things like that. So she'll probably be chatty Cathy like me.
Yep.
You inherited that from me.
I did.
Yes. So what do you do?
So I am the founder of the High Vibe School, and I help overwhelmed, stressed out moms to create a higher vibration for themselves so that they can be better moms and also make time for themselves and just feel better all around.
Yes, because yelly children make yelly moms, and that can lower your vibration, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Well, I think in general, having children is stressful, and stress is what creates lower vibrations, and lower vibrations are normal, but it's how can we move from a lower vibration to a higher vibration quicker so that we're not just reacting to everything. We're taking time, we're being mindful of how we respond, because so much of our response to our kids can come from frustration and being stressed out, especially right now in a pandemic, and feeling like you never have enough time for yourself because you're always putting them first. So it's kind of, it's like this self-care / spiritual type stuff that I like to teach, plus science, because I like the science behind it all. So
yeah. And I think, as I like to say, and I interview so many of my guests, and their journey has turned into a business in many cases. And when you're really passionate, because I know you're really passionate about helping moms, because the tools that you teach have helped you so much.
Right.
Yes. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was how you got to where you are, because it has been a journey. And I think everything, so much I've learned from you, and I'm so appreciative of it. You think, as a parent, you teach your children, but they teach you so much. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. I think I have a past episode where how I got into network marketing and how I got into like my business. But where you are now is different than where you were back then. And you got into the spiritual stuff. I mean, she learned how to be a crystal healer, which is really interesting. You've introduced Oracle energy cards to me. So that's been like our 6-year journey kind of together.
Mm-hmm.
But she's gone more and more woo woo, as we call it, spiritual stuff. I help women with purpose, and you help women just tap into the spiritual tools to help them.
Mm-hmm.
But 6 years ago we were Beachbody coaches,
Right? We were.
and you were super broke.
Uh-huh.
Your husband had been laid off from his job.
Correct.
And you had moved to Charlottesville from Northern Virginia, where we lived, and you were renting a house, and you came upon, you were cruising, I think, Facebook or Instagram. So talk about that.
So I was on my own weight loss journey myself, because I had just had my second.
Right.
And I learned from Ben's old boss, my husband's old boss, like all about how to count calories and like the right exercise for my body. And so I started my own journey. And you know me, I've always been one to be an open book and share on social media. And I had a blog. And so I was.
That's right. You were mommy blogging.
Yes. And so I had my blog, and I was documenting, and I felt like the only way I'm going to stay accountable, because, I've been a yo-yo dieter my whole life. And so the only way I was going to stay accountable this time was to share it, to tell people about it, because it's easy if you don't tell people about what you're doing to, like, if you fail, then so nobody knows. It's not,
right.
So it was.
I remember too, when you posted a picture on Facebook. And so I've always had this kind of obsession about weight, which has created a problem. That's a whole nother episode we could talk about. But my mom was anorexic. So I was overweight as a preteen. And so I lost 30 pounds when I was turning 12 to 13. And my mom was like overfed us as children. I don't know if that had something to do with her anorexia. I haven't really studied it, but I always was afraid for my kids to lose weight or to gain weight. And so I probably obsessed a little bit more about their food and stuff, and gave them complexes about it. So that's one thing that, I can be vulnerable and open about, that I wish I had a do-over for that. But I will say Nikki is teaching her children amazing things about loving their bodies and themselves. But anyways, I remember, because the beliefs that we have about that from our childhood, we carry today.
Well, also society.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not perfect. I still catch myself with, like, but I always think about that in the back of my head. I'm like, oh, I don't want to mess her up. And, but, she's going to have it from friends and society. So it's just like, the affirmations and stuff that you teach, like I try to teach that to her too.
But I just remember you posting a picture of you, like, it wasn't, you think of people only posting pictures where they're like the perfect body, and you were being very vulnerable. And you said, I have a lot more to lose, but I've lost this much. And I was like, oh, I remember. But then that's why people became attracted to you, because
you felt honest. Like my after was like,
no, I mean, you I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she posted that. I mean, that's I did.
It went blurry.
Oh, that's because we're moving around. Yeah. So yeah, we're filming this. So I do put it on YouTube. So if you want to see what we look like, and I'm looking at my chicken neck.
Oh my God, stop.
I'm like, I think I look pretty good straight up, but when I turn sideways, you see that chicken neck. But anyways,
you can fix that.
We got.
So we're talking about how I got into Beachbody. So because I was sharing that, somebody reached out to me, and they said, and then also combined with the fact that Ben had gotten laid off, and so they tried to actually, I think they wanted Ben to do it. I actually had a friend who was in a different company say like, oh, Ben should do this. And I was like, do network marketing. It was, the company's no longer together, and it's folded. It got shut down. And I remember the first thing you think of when you're of network marketing is, of course, back then it's nothing like it is now. So it was just like, I'm not a salesperson. He's not a salesperson. We can't do that. But the Beachbody thing was more like, you're already doing everything a Beachbody coach does, but you're not getting paid for it. And of course, at that time when we were like, I think we had to borrow money from you for rent. And that was like the most.
Well, the problem was he didn't have a job. So your rental application. Right. So you could afford it, but you couldn't. So we were like.
We paid in advance.
Yeah.
We paid 6 months in advance. Yes. Okay. But we didn't have that chunk of change. You helped us with that.
Yeah.
So.
But you paid back.
Right. I did pay it back.
Yeah.
So that was enticing to me, that whole like, I'm already doing what it takes to do, but I was skeptical of the products because I wasn't taking the products. So, and I didn't know that I would like the shakes because I was already drinking my own shake that you drink, like a protein shake. So my coach sent me samples. I liked them. And so, it was really cheap to sign up. And
and so it was a friend that you went to high school with. So you just happened to be
we
Facebook.
weren't even like friends in high school.
Just acquaintances.
Yeah, we knew each other, and I was
so
friends
he
with
saw
him on
you
Facebook.
sharing,
right?
And he was like, "She's doing exactly."
Yeah,
what,
he started commenting on my stuff. I started seeing him in the newsfeed. Like I saw that he quit his graphic design job to do coaching, and I knew graphic designers make good money, and so it was really, he sent me a lot of videos. And I didn't really watch that many. I actually put off our phone call a couple of times because I didn't want to get on the phone. But there was just something that just said, what do you have to lose? Why not just try it? And so that kind of was the start of it. And immediately, because I had been sharing my journey, when I shared, and I was already doing that T25 workout. So as soon as I shared that I was going to have an accountability group for that started it, everything. And then from there, and I saw, and I just was like, oh my gosh, like, I can do this. And then it just took off.
Yeah. And so meanwhile, her mom, me, was a little up in weight at the time. And I wanted to help, like we all want to help our kids, right? It's like she gets a new job and you want to support her in her new job. So I bought a challenge pack with the Shakeology and the T25. And I remember it was Molly's birthday. It was her third birthday was when I started. And so that was 7 years ago, 7 years ago. And it was over the holidays. I always have success over the holidays with this stuff. And then I lost 10 inches and I think I only lost 4 pounds, but I lost pant size because I lost inches. And then I went into P90X right after that. And so I had a huge transformation, but you approached me about being, a distributor.
It was sketchy.
Yeah. And it's so funny because my generation had the really annoying, and I mean, even today people are annoying, I think, with network marketing if they don't do it right. But it's like Amway, Shackley. I remember my Lamaze teacher for you sold Shackley. And when I would go for my Lamaze class, Dad and I, she'd have all of her supplements and vitamins and stuff set up in her kitchen. So she was a Lamaze teacher on the side and a Shackley distributor. And I loved her. But yeah, I think I bought products from her. But but I always had this oh, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
So I remember you asked me in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it was around the holiday. Well, no, it was, I think, November, because I started early November.
You were already getting the Shakeology.
Yeah. And I was like, I'd pay full price. I don't need a discount.
Right.
I was so mean.
You said it was sketchy and that you didn't need the discount.
Yeah. So I went another month. And then at the very end of December, I remember you caught me in we were sitting on the couch.
I remember.
And you were like, Mom, you should, you sure you don't want to do it? And I was like, okay, because then I realized it would help you too, but I'm not going to sell it. I am not going to do that. It was so funny, but I really did love the products. And I had at that point a true transformation from it. And then you took me to a Beachbody event and then it was all this share. And at that event, I saw somebody that was like me. It was a guy, but he was in the corporate world in a software company. And that was my background. And he was still working his job, but he had just crossed 6 figures with Beachbody. And so I just love that. I loved the community aspect because you and I are very social. And we were going to get to spend a lot of time together. And as a result, we went on a ton of trips together.
But the downfall of that was that I didn't have a babysitter for the trips unless the kids went to the in-laws, which they usually could take them. But if they couldn't, then it was who's going to watch them?
Yeah. But it was quite a journey because I learned a lot. I learned a lot from Nikki. I was super proud because she became one of the top. She was the top. You were 19, right, in the company, top 20, and was on stage speaking at the events. And I couldn't be prouder of what she did. and I worked real hard. I mean, I busted my butt and I helped a lot of people, but I just never was able to break that threshold of having a team that made, because ultimately in network marketing, you have to have a team of people who's, producing and bringing on team and team, right? It's like a growing organization. And so I guess aged out of it, if you would say that.
I don't think you can say you aged
not meaning age.
I think there, I definitely think that it's a combination of things. Like I sometimes think that the plan that they have is not the best plan as far as like being successful in network marketing companies, especially like from the get-go. So I think it discourages some people and they quit before they can really see any success, which is so important in network marketing. Like you need to have that initial success. I also think selling health and fitness is really hard. Like selling a lifestyle transformation is hard. So there's a lot of self-doubt. I think that's part of it. I also think that most people are not really, I don't want to say most people, but I think a lot of people are not cut out to be entrepreneurs, and network marketing is really easy to get into, but to sustain it and to be in it long term, like takes a lot of mental strength that you have to work on. And I don't think a lot of people do that. But also I think, your age group is a little bit harder as far as, because of that. I think people are like, oh, it's harder for me because people my age, they don't want to do this or they don't want to do that. But I think, that's just an excuse people have to overcome. But you did work so hard. And I don't think it was you. I think it was like the limiting beliefs of the people that you would bring on, like they had limiting beliefs that prevented them from seeing success. Like you saw that success, you knew it was there, you had success. It was the duplication of the success.
Yes.
And that's the hardest part in network marketing, is you have to duplicate your success, which is so hard, which is why most people fail in network marketing. I think it's like an amazing stepping stone for people who truly are entrepreneurial spirits. They see and I've seen so many people who like actually didn't do that great in network marketing, including people in Beachbody.
Yeah.
And they're like hugely successful now in their own business. And that's another part of it. I think you have to have the passion. Like you said, I had a great transformation. I love the products. It came natural to you. That wasn't like, it wasn't like I need an opportunity to make money, so I'm going to do this. I think that's where a lot of people fail in network marketing as well, is they just pick the shiny object, or they think, oh, I could be successful here because it's just selling this or selling that. But if you don't have an actual passion for what you're selling, it's really hard to sell.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think by aging out, I don't mean I got too old for it. I meant that time, over time, I just got tired.
Oh yeah.
I got tired.
But that's also like totally part of network marketing. I think in general, across the board, I mean, especially in Beachbody, but that's really all I know. So I can't be like totally biased, but it's all about like, can you hit this goal every single month? Hit this goal, hit this. It's like burnout. It leads to burnout. Like you just push and you push and you push. What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? And that's what happened to me, is like, I just got so burnt out with it. I'm like, I'd hit a goal and I could never be satisfied. It was like, I got to get to 15 star, and I got to 13 star and I still wasn't happy enough. It's like, and then nobody's there telling you it's okay. I mean, I had one mentor who was like that, Nikki, you really need to enjoy where you're at. Like he was always telling me that, he's like, you're the person that just, if you're not winning the race, you don't want to run. And, just all these little nuggets I think about now. And that's my Enneagram 3, obviously. Like, unless I'm achieving, I don't feel good enough. But I just feel like the culture of network marketing, because I think it's sales in general, right? You have to hit your goal, and and then people don't hit their goal and then they feel like a failure and then they quit, So it's kind of like this, it really is. And towards the end of coaching, I felt like I was trying so hard to combat that, to like make it more flow, make it more like not so masculine, push, like add in some feminine in there. And like, how can I do that, but still be successful? And then how can I duplicate that? But the way the company is set up, the incentives, and any company I think is like this, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to change that. It's hard to show people like the prizes aren't important. It's the income you're making.
Well, don't you think too with us, impact. I think our personalities lend itself to, because I know people have said this, it's just, it's number of people, quantity, because you throw enough spaghetti at the wall, one is going to stick, and you need like 4 successful people to really like become successful. And so for me, it was like, I don't want to bring people on as a coach if every single one of them can't be like hugely successful.
Right.
So that mentality to me was like, yeah, I'm going to do this knowing I'm going to be leaving people behind, that they're going to be spaghetti noodles falling off the wall. And I just, that was hard for me to.
Well, I agree with that, but I also feel like if you're giving everybody, this opportunity, it's up, you can't, you can't be successful for people.
Yes.
But I know there's like this huge rising like anti-MLM movement. And I know a lot of them talk about how like it's not equal opportunity, and it's all about, you spend more money than you make, and very few people are successful in it. And so I haven't like dug into all of that, the statistics, and it's hard coming from a place of seeing so much success, just having my whole life revolve around that because of the work that I did. It's hard for me to say like that I had special whatever, and that's why I got to where I am. Honestly, I don't know why I was so successful, I guess, because I was very passionate about it, and I shared that, and I've never felt like I was icky or
yes. And that's one thing that I love about you. And that one thing that I've learned from you as a mom, I was trying to think when we were doing this, getting ready for this, I was like, what the things I've learned from you. But one thing that you are is genuinely just a nice, good-hearted person, just a good-hearted person. And that shines through that like authenticity. You've always been super authentic. I mean, I think the story about the guy coming.
I knew it. Oh, I was like, she's going to tell the gutter story. She's going to tell the gutter story. Go ahead, tell the gutter story.
I'll make it quick.
Every time. My daughter's so nice. She paid this poor man to clean her gutters.
But I don't know where that comes from, because if somebody rang my doorbell and asked for money, I'd be like, slam it in his face. No, that just because that, to me, that's scary. It's like, ooh, not because
he was like really a really nice old man. I mean,
so somebody came to her door when she lived in, she was single, living in a house with a couple other roommates. Was anybody home at the time? Colleen was home. But anyway, somebody rang her doorbell, and he needed money, and you got in the car.
No,
he cleaned he cleaned the gutters. He said, "I'll clean the gutters for you."
But I didn't have any cash, and so Colleen drove me to the ATM, and he followed us.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
This was before like social media, and Dateline wasn't really as big as it was nowadays. I can see, especially having
and this girl had no money of her own, right? And this is how sweet she was, to go to the ATM machine and take money out for this guy but he did clean the gutters.
Yeah, he did a good job.
But he left them all over the place. He didn't clean them up
after. I was like 22.
Anyways, but you've always been so nice. So back to the whole network, not to like get completely off track, but I think people see that. They know you're genuine. They know you're authentic. I think what for me is, after 4.5 years of, I get bored too easily. And I did like it because there was variety with new workouts coming out, and you could always get new workouts for yourself, and then new people, because I'm a people person, and meeting new people. I just love meeting new people and helping people. So the helping people piece sustained me. But after 4.5 years, I was like, I want to do more than just, because it by 4.5 years, I'd have people who had success and then gain the weight back. And so then I knew,
it's
this is more than an outside job.
With selling health and wellness is a different ballgame. And it's frustrating because you want success for everyone you want to help, especially because you want to help people. And it's hard when people self-sabotage, and so that's definitely part of it. I think that's hard. But for me, one of the biggest reasons, other than becoming more and more into crystals and all of that, and it kind of like my business kind of evolved from people who wanted it from me. They were like, teach me about crystals, like tell me that. They would send me messages asking me questions, and kind of just evolved from there, and people wanted more. And then on the other side of things with Beachbody, I felt like I was less and less in control of my destiny. It was like, it didn't matter all of the work that I put in. it mattered what, my team was doing and whether or not they were successful, which I was like, I want to have control of my destiny.
Yes.
Also, I don't own the company,
Mhm.
like I don't get to decide what products come out. I don't get to decide how things are marketed.
Yeah.
And seeing, when there was
and people say network marketing, you have your own business.
You don't.
You don't.
You do not have your own business. You are a contractor.
Yes. And they still get,
I had this
so much of your-
conversation with a business person the other day. She was asking questions about network marketing. And she said, did you feel like you had your own business? And I said, yes. And when I was in the thick of it, I 100% felt like I was like a business owner. And I was like, but I wasn't, I'm a 1099 employee for that company. Nothing that I have no say. They don't care if I'm working or not, like it's not my company. Yes,
Mhm.
I have an LLC because of that business. So that's the LLC is my company.
Mhm.
But now I have other, streams of income into that LLC. So that's like my business, but it's not.
Yeah. I think also we're good examples of people who were kind of made to be entrepreneurs, but we had too much fear to like go there first. Because I remember I used to look at people who started their own businesses and I'd be like, oh my God.
Well, I started my own business before Beachbody.
Oh, that's true. You had your cake business.
Yeah, I had my cake business.
Yeah. That's
that
true.
was hard.
Yeah.
Especially with little kids
Yeah.
making cakes for people.
Yeah. Well, and that's not very scalable either.
Mm-mm.
So let's go, because one of the things that I've learned late in life, I talk about this a lot, is my heart, like what my heart desired. And I would always talk myself out of things that I really truly wanted to do because they didn't make sense, or that's crazy, or I wouldn't make money, or whatever reason. I thought of a reason to, like, my brain would talk my heart out of it. So you, before Beachbody, you were in the corporate world and you got laid off, and that was devastating to you. I remember.
Yes.
But that's that is a turning point for a lot of people. So describe kind of like what you thought then and how you look back at that. Cause I think with this pandemic, a lot of people are losing their jobs,
right?
Or rethinking their,
right.
Yeah.
That was such a hard time. So I just had Molly, my oldest. I had made Ben quit his job after I had her because his company gave him literally a day off. He had like one day off. I had the baby and it was the weekend, and then they made him come into work on Monday. And then it was just like so hard. I mean, going from no kids to one kid was really hard. And I had postpartum and I didn't know it, postpartum depression. And, so I made him quit his job. I was like, you quit your job. I'm going to go back to work. We'll get her in the daycare and you look for a job.
That's right. You just went back from maternity. It was my birthday too.
Come back.
Yes.
I literally
you called me on my birthday and said, I
love
my dad.
It was Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Our only source of income.
Yeah.
And I got 3 months severance. Yeah. So then it's like the clock's ticking. Like, we need to figure out. And I remember I had a job interview for another company. And I didn't get that job, obviously. But it's so hard when you're at a company for so long. And not only was I there for a long time, but it was like where you had worked. So my whole life, it's all I knew was like how they did things at that company. And it's very relaxed and kind of like flexible. And being a mom, I wanted that flexibility. And I was so afraid to go to another company that would be like, you can't work from home. You can't do this. You can't do that.
And by the way, I just want to say both my kids, which is crazy, worked at AOL where I worked. Neither of them got the job because I got them the job. You guys both went in and interviewed. I think you had other jobs prior to that one, right? Yeah. So,
I mean, I don't think you knew anybody who was hiring, but I think you were able to like talk to HR and see what was available for us to apply to.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it helped a little. Like, let's not say there was some nepotism there. I mean, come on.
Well, I didn't like bribe anybody. Or
yeah, but like I think a lot of people knew who you were. So it's like, oh, Lori Hill's daughter. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
All right.
Well, I'm just,
I was trying to give you credit.
Well, I mean, I think they wouldn't just hire me just because of you or my mom, but it helps me get an interview.
And I didn't work there anymore.
I know, but I think it helped me get an interview at least.
Yeah.
Or like somebody said, oh yeah, this is Lori's daughter.
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
So, but I did earn the job. I did a good job there too. It wasn't, I didn't get laid off for any other reason other than Huffington Post bought AOL and they got rid of my whole, so I got laid off first. And then my whole team got laid off like the
Mhm.
next month. I don't know if they did that because they didn't have anything for me to do because I just come back from maternity leave. So like my job was not even really there anymore.
Yeah.
But they couldn't tell me that, obviously. So anyways, your question
And
was,
I do remember you hated your job too.
I did. Well,
You would complain.
I went into my meet. I was like, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go with my job because I wanted to move into product. And I went into that meeting with my boss thinking that we were going to talk about like what role I wanted to take on. And there was like HR there and I got laid off. I was like, what the heck? And of course, still postpartum hormones. Like I literally was 3 months postpartum. And I think
So how soon after that happened? Was it like a year later that Beachbody came into your life?
so
Because you didn't work. Ben got another job.
No, so what happened was I started my cake business pretty
Mhm.
quickly after that. I took a cake class at Michael's and I decided to, and this was before like all those baking shows on TV. I don't know why I thought of that. Like nobody was
Oh, and
doing
she
it.
makes amazing cakes. Nom Noms was your
Noms by Nikki.
Noms by Nikki.
It was fun. And I was also doing freelance writing and I went to a networking event for AOL and I met a woman who was working at a startup with some other AOL people, and they were looking for bloggers and writers, and so she hired me as like a contractor or like a freelancer, and it was all about vitamins and supplements. And I was like, my husband is an expert in vitamin supplements, and he's looking for a job. They ended up hiring him as a contractor, and we both worked there for a year and a half, maybe two, before that company folded. They had to the startup the money, they couldn't keep the money going. So we both got let go. I think
that's when you moved.
I think by then he was an employee. I don't think he was still a contractor. That's when we moved to Charlottesville because there was no reason to stay in Northern Virginia anymore. It was too expensive and we were closer to you. And we thought, oh, we'll just find jobs down there, which didn't happen.
So then fast forward, because we talked about like, then you did Beachbody, you were still doing cakes. I think you were kind of doing both things. So that shows a little bit of entrepreneurship there.
Mm-hmm. I think I always have wanted to be my own boss.
Yes.
And
I remember
even working at AOL.
Yes.
I hated being in a cubicle.
So I want to tell this because I know that people will relate to this. So I remember you said when you were younger, well, I don't want a desk job. I'm like,
what other job?
Everybody has to have a desk. Like, what are you going to do? A waitress? Because like my generation is so like, what do you mean? You got to have, and I like, so get that, because I think your generation has this, more deeper desire for freedom, or at least feels like
I wanted
it's
to
possible.
work in the music business. I've always really wanted to be like a little bit of a rebel and go against what everybody wanted me to do or what was like supposed to do, So
then fast forward, because I want to know how the heck you got into crystals. Like, I remember you saying to me, oh, I found this certification. Okay. And you had started dabbling and stuff. And that's one thing I love too, that you've exposed me to. Like, think about what you've taught me. You've taught me how to like start. I mean, like, I wouldn't be doing what I do. I wouldn't have the skill set, or I wouldn't have had the desire had I not gone through and done that Beachbody and been exposed to it and say that there is another way. Mm-hmm. I remember, and you didn't really introduce me to this, but I always wanted to go to conferences. I think that was this desire to learn, and be better.
Well, also I think one big part of Beachbody was like the whole personal development thing.
Yes, the personal development.
I've always been into self-help books, even before Beachbody. I don't know if that's from you.
Yeah.
Like, I love reading self-help books and
like
how to like be a better person. So that fed that desire. But then when you start to read more and you learn more, then it's kind of like, well, I can do more and be more. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a natural progression as well. Yeah. It's like, you want to keep growing. You don't want to stay stuck in your little box. You want to like keep growing. So crystals was when we lived in Ashburn, my neighbor down the street, she introduced me to crystals. She was getting Reiki certified. Reiki is like an energy healing, which I'm Reiki certified as well. So I was like her little guinea pig. She would like do Reiki on me. She introduced me to oracle cards. She took me to an angel reading, which is somebody who communicates with angels mostly through cards, through oracle cards. And like, it was insane. I've never been to like, she's not a psychic, but I've never been to anything like that where like somebody was asking me questions about my life. And then, that's where she said I was going to have 4 kids when at that point I only had 2 and I wasn't even thinking about anymore. And she's like, if you don't want any more, you better be careful. It was crazy.
And she also told you to have a boy and a girl, right?
Yes. I have that audio.
That's crazy.
I know, it was crazy. And so there, one of the things that came up in the card she pulled was a crystal called the Dalmatian Jasper. So when I was done with the session, it was at a crystal shop. So I got the Dalmatian Jasper. So that was like
what is that?
It's like, I can show you one over there when we're done, but it's like it looks like a Dalmatian. It's like a rock with spots on it.
Oh.
And
but you said she pulled a card that
so
had that on
in
it?
the reading, one of her decks was like a crystal deck.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like, this could be of use to you, you know?
Okay.
So I was like, I have to get that, and I remember coming home and Ben being like, why did you buy a rock? He was like mad at me for spending money on a rock.
He has his own crystals now.
Oh my God. He has like more than me. You should see them. They're like all cataloged.
That's so funny.
Yes. So that's what started it. And I just started getting more and more into it and more and like reading more about like energy.
Do you think you were following this inner voice or what?
Yeah. I
like you were getting these little like.
Yeah. Signs. Of course. Yeah. Totally. I was like, just
following it.
Yeah. And I couldn't get enough of it, and like, I don't know. I just get this
made you feel good
rush when I go. Yeah, when you go to a crystal shop and you're like, oh my God, and it's like you can never have enough. It's like this addiction. Like they're all over. You can see them all over here.
Yeah.
And so I just started following that path. I think, and the whole, I think Ben was the one that found Hibiscus Moon. He was originally going to take her course, and then I ended up taking it instead, and I became a certified crystal healer, and people just wanted to learn more about crystals and how they worked. And she's a science teacher and she teaches all about the science behind crystals. And I was really into that because that's kind of like fulfilling that logical side of your brain where it's like,
proof.
Yeah. Like show me how it works. Don't just tell me it works. And so
well, it's kind of cool too. And I never thought about this till just now, that Ben being the supplement guy, like that's internal. And then he found these external,
yeah.
Well, I guess chemicals that's, that crystals have.
Yeah. Well, he's also really into, geology. When he was a kid, he had a rock collection. And I find a lot of kids, a lot of people who I start working with, they start to remember like, oh my gosh, I was really into rocks. I collected rocks when I was a kid. Because I think kids are, and that's why like my kids they freaking play with crystals all the time. They love it. They carry them around. I mean, Eleanor.
Do you think that's because kids are closer to their soul and they know more?
I think they can feel the energy.
Yeah.
They're also pretty. I mean, I think there's definitely a look.
Before society has wiped everything out of them.
Yeah, but like it's funny because my kids run around barefoot, and people are like, "Why are your kids running around barefoot?" But I think they can feel like the magnetic pull from the earth, and I let them run around barefoot because I think it's good for them to stay grounded and connected. Like, when's the last time you walked outside barefoot? We have these magnetic parts to the earth into our bodies, and we never tap into that.
I don't want to step on stickers.
I know. Well,
pine cones.
You find a little spot in your yard and just go out there in the grass and see if you feel better.
Yeah. I love just being out in nature is good.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, the negative ions and everything.
Yeah. So you went this path, got certified in crystal healing, and then you started to think, because I started to think, I remember going to a Chalene Johnson event, the Marketing Impact Academy. I remember being so scared signing up for that. It was a business course and it really had nothing to do with Beachbody, even though she's a fitness person with a lot of products. But I remember going to that event in California, and it put that thought in my brain. And she was big on never have one source of revenue, always expand. And there were a lot of network marketing people there. And that was when I first had the idea of like, oh, you're right. I shouldn't put all my eggs in one basket. What else? I mean, and I'm in my 50s. So you being able to learn this at a younger age, is so valuable and so lucky. But I was like, oh, and then I had an idea about a course. And that's when I had my first idea of I want to have a podcast, which I sat on for 3 years. But so I think that for me, that was a big turning point for me where I saw, and I think I started to think, oh my gosh, Nikki could do so much more than just Beachbody. I think in the back of my mind as a mom, I wanted you to have more opportunity.
Right. I mean, I don't think
you were really so successful. It was like,
right. But I was starting to struggle with things, mainly myself and my self-worth and trying to detach my success with my business from the success of who I am as a human, which as an Enneagram 3, if you guys know anything about the Enneagram, 3s are, that's their self-worth is tied to their success. And so when
I have to have somebody on to teach
that, you really do. It's so powerful, because when I was not being as successful, I had a couple kids, more kids, and I wasn't having as much success. The business model changed a lot. Social media changed. More people were doing network marketing. I had to get more creative. And so I started, equating that with my own self-worth, and like, maybe this was all a fluke, and maybe I'm not, meant to do this. But I think you pushed me and made me see that it was okay. Like, I just think I never thought I would do anything other than Beachbody. Like, that was my life. That was like, I remember grandma one time saying like, well, what's going to happen when that is over? Like, well, you're not going to have a job. Talk about not wanting to go talk about entrepreneurship. Like, she was all about, how are you going to do that? And I remember her saying that and being like, I'm never going to not do Beachbody. Like, I'm always going to be a Beachbody coach. I just like could not ever see myself not being a coach. And when so many people would talk about, how is Beachbody your vehicle? How is it going to be like, what are you going to do with it? I just always was like, I'm just going to be a coach forever. Like, I didn't ever see myself doing anything different until I started not being really happy. And then I started learning more about crystals. And then you started talking more about business stuff.
I remember talking to the husband of a top coach at one of the, resorts we were at, one of the trips. And I remember him saying, and he had been a baseball player and he had gotten injured, and, everything changed, his whole future that he thought was going to change. And so he was like, well, what if this all ends? What if this, and I, what I said to him, because, I had like heyday AOL, stock coming, flowing, growing. And I said, everything ends. Everything ends. But in the moment, enjoy what you're doing. And that's always going to carry you to the next thing.
Right.
So I always have this belief that where I am now is always going to carry me to the next thing.
Right.
And I think, so you got into a place of that logic versus heart thing fighting, because your logic was telling you to stay
for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still don't really publicly talk about not doing Beachbody, because I still, people come to me and they want help. Like, I help them, but I'm not like coaching them. I hook them up with what they need, but I'm not like actively, and I haven't been for almost a year now, but I've never really talked about it out loud. Like, I sometimes talk about it because technically I am still a coach, and
I am too.
I support,
I drink Shakeology every day. I talk about how much I love
and I
it.
support anybody on my team who comes, and I'm still in a lot of groups where I can help people with information, and so it's not like I'm.
We still work out using the workouts. We love them. It's the best thing ever. Like, working out.
So I'm not like 100%. Like, I didn't quit, and I'm not like not a coach. That's still a part of me, but it's not like. And originally it was kind of like, I need to focus on my new business, and I still need to focus on my new business, but I think in the beginning it was kind of like, oh, I can always go back to Beachbody. Like, it's my fallback, but I'm past that point now. Like, I just don't ever think that I will ever be in a place again where I will go all in on how I did before. I'm like a different person than I was then. How you like are always evolving. I'm just like evolved out of that.
And you're like, and now I believe you're very similar to me. If somebody comes to you and says, I want to be a Beachbody coach and I want to grow a team and blah, 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 you would recommend them to somebody else, because
I would give them to somebody, somebody below me on my team that deserves
that's doing the work,
like,
would mentor them, and
for sure.
And now you're coaching actually people.
Yes.
So that's so exciting. So Nikki has this, it's a course and program where she does calls and the High Vibe School. And she's also taking on clients now, which is super exciting, because you've got that coach in you. That's a gift.
Yeah. So I call it a spiritual transformation coach, because it's like life coaching, but it has a little bit of a spiritual twist. We do pull cards and
how to use tools too.
And gosh, some part of me wishes if I had more time, I would totally go back to school and get a degree in like psychology. Like, become a therapist. I feel like so much of coaching and that is kind of like related. And I just like, am so fascinated by it. I'm like, why was but I was a sociology major. So I guess, it's kind of a little bit similar, and
Yeah.
it's all about people and like
Yeah.
learning why people do things and stuff. So it's definitely, I guess, more of a part of me than I thought. In
Yeah.
college, I think I was just like, oh, I just need to get a degree.
I'll have to get you typed by Alex, because the write-up for what I am is, I think, very similar to what you are too. So
Oh yeah, well, we have the same
spark type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the same, was it Myers-Briggs?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the same.
My little clone.
Yeah.
The nicer version clone that gives money to people who ring the doorbell. We'll never give away your address because the doorbell will keep ringing. All right. So what have you learned like about yourself through this journey that you've been on?
Gosh, that's like a totally loaded question.
Yeah, that is a totally loaded question.
What have I learned about myself? I guess, I've learned so much. I feel like I know for sure that like whatever I put my mind to, I can be successful at. And I feel like it's just me getting out of my own way a lot of the times, it's like, which is why it's good to have you around, because you remind me of that all the time. But I think it's okay to ask for help too,
Yes.
Which is hard for someone like me who wants to control everything. But I guess I'm not that much of a control freak, but when it comes to my business, I am. But, and it's not like a secret or anything, but this whole pandemic has been so hard for me. And like, I went to the doctor to get on depression medication because I was like, I'm depressed, and so that makes it hard to do anything in your life. And
you had postpartum depression. So you can recognize the signs. Because I remember when Molly was born, and I could see your personality change, and I had no experience with postpartum. You're super positive. You're just like,
right.
You're a bubbly person. You're very extroverted. And so I just noticed a change about you. But we didn't live in the same town, so I didn't see you all the time.
Right.
Well, actually I did have that apartment for I would stay there 3 nights a week, and it was in the same building as you, because I was commuting back and forth from Charlottesville to DC at that time. That's right. That's when I was in that transition period in my life. But I would rarely see you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's one.
But I just thought you were busy with the baby, and you were really you were worried about germs.
Yeah. Well, that's,
I think that's you had your little sanitizer.
Yeah. That's normal for first time parents. Don't shame me for my sanitizer.
But I think that you were very isolated.
That's what has happened with the pandemic. It's like very easy to isolate. But I recognized it, but it's hard when your whole business is revolving around helping people get to a higher vibration, when I couldn't even do it for myself. And I couldn't, like, all the tools and all the things that I have knowledge of, and I just couldn't do. But that happens too with helping people with weight loss. Sometimes sometimes you're better at helping other people than you are about yourself. And I think that's common with a lot of women, especially because I think most women are, or people who identify as women are caretakers at heart. They want to take care of other people. And so it's so much easier to take care of other people than to like focus on yourself. But that's why I wanted to share about it. Cause I was like, I'm not always the expert in everything, and I struggle, and I have, I know a lot of people are struggling right now, and I want to share what's helping me. And, I've had postpartum depression twice. The first time I used medication, the second time I didn't. And then when I was depressed this time, I was like, I need to go to the doctor. Like, this is beyond, I couldn't even and
you very quickly, it was probably like a month, and you started to like shine again.
Yeah. It takes about a month to kick in, but it's definitely helped a lot. Because I couldn't, I think it becomes when you can't motivate yourself to do what will help you, is when you need to get help. Because with Emmett, I was able to get motivated enough to start the process of kind of naturally working through that depression. But this time I couldn't do that. I needed the chemical imbalance in my brain to be fixed.
Yeah. So I took notes before we started, and I just want to see the only other question that I had, which would probably be a good question to end on, is because I always think about this, and I always I think one thing that motivates me, people's like, why do you have so much energy? Why do you do what you do? What makes you, somebody messaged me on Instagram and said, because I'm Not Your Average Grandma on there as well as on Facebook. And they said, what makes you not average? And I was just like, never being like my grandparents who were so old at such a young age. I don't ever want to be, that old person that can't do anything or can't like so I think about what I hope for my kids, and I talk about this, like, how would you want your, like, when I try to talk to people about who are stuck and can't get out of their own way to do what they really want to do, or to even investigate what it is that they might want to do. And I'm like, would you want that for your kids? So I try to be an example that this is what is possible for you as my child,
Right,
and so what, as you, like speaking third generation, right? For my grandchildren, what do you hope for your children? Like, one thing that I love is how you teach them there's spirituality stuff. We never went to church, as a family. So it's more of this kind of like, I don't know. It's just like, and I don't even know what Molly and Burke, who are the older two, think. Like, some people call it the universe, some people call it God, some people call it the source.
We have those conversations because we live in the South, so a lot of people talk about God, and so I talk about that. I say, this is what some people believe, and you can believe whatever you want, and this is what I believe, and so it's. But they're opening those conversations, but look at when I was younger, I was searching. I went to church with different people, different kinds of churches, and so I was interested in this something that's unknown and bigger than us, and what is it, and we'll never really know. But what's funny is that my boyfriend in high school was a Mormon, right? So since we didn't go to church, I went to church with him and his family, and I always went to church with my Mormon friends. And that is so funny because here Nikki's in high school, and one of our best friends is Mormon, and she's going to Mormon church with her. And I was like, if this didn't like recreate itself, that's crazy. And like seminary in the morning sometimes with them, and all the Mormon dances. It was fun. We had fun. And Young Life, we did Young Life. I did Young Life. I went to Baptist camp with Nikki. Yeah, we went to a lot of different things. Yeah, that's great though. I love that you got exposed, but I love that you're teaching your children what I think is so foundational, that I do think you learn in church, is that there's something bigger than you, that you are loved, that whatever that is has your back, and like manifestation, and how if you put good in the world, good things will happen. And so I guess, and then again, this is an open-ended question, but what do you hope for your kids? Oh my God. I think that one of the biggest things I hope for them is that they can stay like as true to themselves as they possibly can, because they're going to obviously get things from all over, and it shapes who you are. But I always want them to know that, whatever they want, like, I will accept whatever they want. They don't have to go to college. Like, they don't, it's funny because now that Molly's getting grades, we don't talk about like, you have to get an A. We talk about, you try your best and you get what you put in. If you don't try, if you don't study, then you might not get a good grade, but it's just a grade. It's not like who you are, or it doesn't place any value on your life. It's just it's just a measurement. So I really want to instill in them to like, they can do whatever they want to do, but if they want to do it, it's got to be them. It's going to be up to them, because nothing's going to be handed to them, and nothing's going to be, and I don't want to say you have to work hard for what you want. Because I think that's a very damaging thing to say, because you don't have to work hard. You just have to work smart. Go with your heart. Yes. Always. Follow your heart. Yeah. Go with your heart always. Well, thank you so much for being here and being a guest. You're welcome. We'll know a little bit more about me through Hopefully you. That was interesting in my life. I feel like it was like just my life. Just another example of like a journey and transformation to authenticity, because you become more authentic, as you've gotten older and grown into that, and you found it really probably before I found it, or at least followed my heart. And now the baby's crying, so that must be where good timing. Yeah. But I want you to know you are the most wonderful human being. Oh, thank you. And your sister, make me cry. And your sister, and your sister. And one thing that I've learned from you is unconditional love. You were my first. When I held you in my arms, I'm sorry. But when I held you in my arms, I never realized when I was pregnant that I would love somebody so much.
And so you've been a blessing. I've learned so much from you. I think you're an old soul, and it's taught me so much. And it's funny because I remember my mom, because I wasn't a good babysitter. Well, I just didn't like to babysit, you know, I would rather go like have fun. And my sister was more of the nurturer. And I remember my mom, I think she was worried that I maybe wouldn't be a very good mother.
You are a great mom. You are a great mom.
And I just remember like, I would have done anything for you. And I love, and that's why I like focus on people who are passionless after the nest empties, because, you know, you guys, I loved every minute of being your mom. And I think that's a coach in me, maybe. And I'm so proud of you. And I think you're doing amazing things in the world. And
we had a few rough patches we won't talk about.
You know, those are obstacles that we learn to, I don't know. Are you talking about what?
Me.
I remember you skipping school.
You don't remember me getting arrested?
Oh, that was in college.
Twice.
Oh, hey, those things happen. That'll be another episode. But, you know, nothing you've done has ever like disappointed me, really. I mean, it's like, I would just remember when you got not arrested, but you got caught skipping school. That is karma.
For what?
Because I skipped school and I remember getting caught.
Oh, so
and I remember you got caught, and I was like, the first thing was such a disappointment. Like, where have I failed as a parent? But then the next thought was like, oh, this is what my mother felt like. So you just wait. Until
I know.
long.
I'm scared. Oh
but yeah, but those, you know, for me, those are all life lessons.
Yeah,
those are all life lessons. Nothing super bad happened.
I know.
Just, so, and
the first arrest was such a BS.
Yeah. So
we'll go into another episode.
We'll go into that another episode. But yes, that is it.
Well, look, you don't have a perfect child. So anybody who thinks that you have like this perfect little life, like you don't. Nobody does. Nobody does. Yeah. So I think
although I think my grandchildren are perfect. At least they're perfect for me. When I come and watch them, they're perfect.
You better not mess up around Nanny. She will.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. She will not do that.
All right. That's it. Bye.